Warning 10 The morning that felt holy until it wasn't. November 1st, 1755. A day of worship. A day of peace. A day when the entire city of Lisbon believed it was under divine protection. Churches were overflowing. Candles burned across altars. Bells echoed through narrow streets. The city wasn't just alive, it was spiritually alive. And then, the ground moved. Not a tremor. Not a shake. A violent, earth-ripping force that split reality itself. Buildings didn't crack. They collapsed instantly. Stone cathedrals, symbols of faith, turned into tombs within seconds. Thousands were crushed before they could even understand what was happening. People screamed the same question. Why would God do this on a holy day? But here's the truth Lisbon refused to face. Faith wasn't the problem. Blind confidence without preparation was. This wasn't just a natural disaster. This was a city that trusted paper walls against a mountain's fury. And today, cities still build glass towers over fault lines, praying instead of preparing. Question: if disaster struck your city right now, would your belief save you? Or your preparation? Warning 9 The buildings that looked strong, but weren't. Lisbon was one of the richest cities in Europe. Gold flowed in from colonies. Architecture was grand, massive, beautiful. But behind that beauty was a fatal flaw. Structures were built for appearance, not survival. Heavy stone walls, narrow streets, dense construction, perfect for prestige, deadly for earthquakes. When the shaking began, buildings didn't bend. They shattered. Collapsed structures crushed entire families. Streets became traps. Escape routes vanished in seconds. People who ran outside were buried under falling debris. People who stayed inside were buried under ceilings. There was no safe place. Because safety had never been part of the design. Lesson: strength is not what looks strong. Strength is what survives stress. Modern parallel: cities today still prioritize skyline aesthetics over structural resilience. Glass towers, weak retrofits, ignored building codes. We learned the lesson, then we ignored it. Warning 8 The fire that finished what the earth started. If the earthquake wasn't enough, what came next was worse. Candles. Thousands of them. Churches. Homes. Streets. When buildings collapsed, candles fell. And Lisbon ignited. Fires spread uncontrollably. Entire districts turned into infernos. Survivors of the quake burned alive. For 5 days, the city burned. Think about that, surviving the impossible only to die in flames. Why? Because no one planned for chain reactions. The disaster wasn't one event. It was a sequence. Earthquake, right pointing arrow, collapse, right pointing arrow, fire, right pointing arrow, total destruction. Modern parallel: cities today are even more dangerous. Gas lines, electricity grids, fuel storage. If one system fails, how many disasters follow? Warning 7 The ocean that came back to kill. People thought they were safe near the water. Big mistake. After the quake, the sea pulled back unnaturally far. Curiosity replaced fear. Thousands walked toward the exposed seabed trying to understand. And then, the ocean returned. A massive tsunami wave slammed into Lisbon's harbor, swallowing everything. People were dragged into the sea. Ships were thrown onto land like toys. Escape turned into annihilation. The cruelest part, the warning signs were there, but no one understood them. Today, we know what a receding ocean means. But ask yourself honestly, if you saw it, would you run? Or would curiosity slow you down, just enough to die? Warning 6. The leadership that didn't exist. In the chaos there was no control. No emergency system. No coordinated rescue. No disaster plan. People ran in every direction. Looting began. Panic spread faster than fire. Lisbon wasn't just physically destroyed, it was socially shattered. Disaster doesn't just test buildings. It tests leadership. And when leadership fails, survival becomes luck. Modern cities rely heavily on systems. Emergency alerts, rescue teams, communication networks. But what happens when those systems fail? Because history shows, in real disasters, systems break first. Humans panic second. Chaos wins last. Warning 5. The belief that it can't happen here. Lisbon didn't expect an earthquake. Why? Because it rarely happened. That illusion of safety became a silent killer. It's not a risk. It won't happen here. We're safe. These thoughts killed thousands. Today, cities across the world sit on fault lines. Yet they repeat the same lie. Low probability does not mean zero probability. Warning 4. The cost of ignoring science. At that time, earthquakes were seen as divine punishment, not natural phenomena. So instead of studying, people prayed. Instead of preparing, people justified. This delayed understanding, and delay, cost lives. Today we have science. We understand seismic zones, structural engineering, risk modeling. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Knowledge means nothing without action. Warning 3. The survivors who weren't prepared to survive, even those who survived the initial disaster, faced a new nightmare. No food, no water, no shelter. Disease spread. Starvation followed. Survival wasn't just about escaping death. It was about enduring what came after. Modern cities depend on fragile systems. Supply chains, electricity, internet. If they collapse, how long can you survive? Warning 2. The reconstruction that changed everything. After the destruction, Lisbon rebuilt. But this time, differently. Stronger structures. Earthquake-resistant designs. For the first time, disaster was treated as something to prepare for, not just fear. This was one of history's first steps toward modern disaster engineering. But here's the irony. We only change after we suffer. Warning 1. The ultimate truth. Faith alone is not a shield. Lisbon believed it was protected. Spiritually, morally, religiously. But nature doesn't negotiate. Faith gives meaning. Preparation gives survival. Ignoring one for the other is deadly. Final question. If your city falls tomorrow, will you be among those who believed? Or those who prepared? If this story shook you even a little, then you already understand something most people ignore. Disasters don't kill unprepared cities. They expose them. Subscribe to Top 10 Untold. Because the next warning might not be history. It might be your future.